Hey dudes, I'm the one and only Grosso guy with a commentary for my Batman Knightfall Lego adaptation, which also serves as the finale for my series. If you haven't seen the original film or my series yet, then you can find links to watch both of those in the description. That being said, this is a long one, so feel free to put this on while animating your own video or something, and I'll just start giving you the actual commentary now. So right off the bat, pun intended, this opening scene, this actually wasn't going to be in the original cut of the script. This whole origin sequence with Bane, actually all the flashbacks with Bane's origin, was a part of a prequel script, which was going to be about Bane. And I was going to make that before Knightfall or have a collaborator make that. But then I was like, you know what? When it fell through, I was like, let me just add some of those scenes to Knightfall, and I'll give Bane's character more depth, and I feel like it'll help the flow of the story a little better. So, yeah, these scenes wouldn't have been included. So this was added, not really as a last-minute touch, but a lot later in the script, because I had worked on the script for about, like, a year. And even after all that time, it was like a couple of months after that, I added these scenes to it and reworked it even then. This was also one of the first times, I think, when I had tried doing a bit of a little bit of color correction and lighting work. Like, one of my good friends told me to use like a blue sheet and to put that over my my light to give like a color, or like any color for that matter, and then I was able to do colored lighting that way, and then also the color correction helped. But you know, the natural lighting on top of that was what really sold the look. And this establishing shot, this was a shot that I had asked my good friend Paradox Pictures to do for me, and it wasn't even going to be in the film. It was just something I wanted for the trailer. And then I was like, alright, let me put this into the film somewhere. It was just meant to be a really cool shot. And then this scene here with the thugs speaking Japanese. Yeah, they weren't going to speak Japanese originally. Just one of my good friends, Michael Red Raider, could speak Japanese rather fluently. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to get him to do this. I thought it'd be sick to have some other language speaking in the video. But no, originally they were just going to speak English. As a matter of fact, this scene and the Bane scene, they're based on, I don't know if it's a tie-in to Knightfall or what, but there was a comic, a storyline called Vengeance of Bane, and a lot of that was kind of transferred over to lead into the Knightfall story itself. But the conversation here was meant to be more of a less than subtle foreshadowing of the story itself, that Bane's gonna come and try to take out Batman to climb to the top of the food chain, and just also the overall theme of my series, how that had been with Ignatius Ogilvy and Penguin and whoever else. So this encounter, this first encounter between Bane and Batman, this is based on their first encounter in Knightfall. But the thing is, I had considered not even having the two of them meet until the final battle in the cave. I really wanted to be there. I wanted there to be like a big build-up to that moment where the two have their confrontation. But then at the same time, I was like, alright, it might be kind of neat for the two of them to somewhat cross paths but not fight just yet, so they have an idea of each other. And then that way, whenever they do have their final battle, it will be like a payoff. Something I really wanted to explore here was Bane's side of the story. This is more meant to be Bane's story than it is Batman. Because Batman, we had already seen so much of his character in the series. So I was like, let me focus on Bane here and actually give him a good motivation. He's just not this guy that's like, yeah, I want to like beat up Batman. And, it's a little more complex than that. Like, you get a look into his psychosis and why it is that he wants to take down Batman, because you never really get that explanation. And this is another shot that I couldn't have pulled off on my own. This was a huge help from Paradox Pictures. Just an awesome shot here. He handles all of the masterful editing, including this title sequence, which that was also a title sequence. So I had an original title sequence that was more like the comic book logo of Knightfall, where it's like the half blue and red, I think the colorization is, covering the bat symbol. But Mario, he didn't think that looked too good, so he's like, you know what, no, I got this, I'll handle it. And then this scene here, so the wine glass, I really wanted to, so what I did for the wine is I used Jello. That's Jello in the glass there. And then Slade as well, like I just, you know, I Sharpied his eye patch on. This was where I brought over that more innovative side that I was talking about for some of my series. Like, I wanted to bring that back. And this is supposed to be Warren White, Great White Shark, which I was going to use Voldemort's head, but I didn't have it, and I didn't want to order it because I was just, I don't know, cheap, I guess. But I did have this head, so I was like, you know what, it's fine. You know, this guy looks like a creep. Like, it's still the same general appearance of Great White Shark. It's just he has a beard, and I just couldn't help myself from thinking of CW's bearded Lex. I was like, oh, that's like a downgrade, but I didn't think anybody would mind. Luckily, nobody really commented about it or cared, so I don't think it was that big a deal. Okay, so then we get to see Damien and Tim, which I really wanted to focus on their dynamic. The two of them not really getting along in the sense of, I guess, siblings. Like, you know, it's not like all siblings don't get along, but I wanted to give them that dynamic, especially since we never really saw the two of them interact, let alone their own. Like, we didn't really see them do much in my series. Like, this is the first time that the two of them are suited up and actually doing anything on screen, which there is a Robin video coming from Instant Motion Films. It's on its way, where it explains how, like, Damien became Robin, but I'm just talking about in general. I wanted to really focus on these characters, especially since they're going to be the next generation that continues on from after Bruce is no longer Batman. Every character, I needed to give them a purpose. Like, not only like write them in, but I wanted them to actually be there for something. Like Damien and Tim, like it's mostly focused on their relationship, the two of them becoming closer partners and finding an understanding there. And then Red Hood here too, because I wanted to bring Red Hood back. Like Silly Boy had made that spin-off, so we got to see him become Red Hood, but now he's active in the streets and stuff. So I wanted to show how he's kind of operating in the lower parts. And that's how he would kind of find out. Yeah, so there was going to be a side story here. And I still kind of kept that side story, but it's not as broad as I thought it was going to be originally. So it was going to be that Bane was going to have a militia, and it was going to be like a big army, kind of like I don't know, like maybe like Court of Owls-esque, and that was going to be what Jason would discover. And so something along those lines, like Bane, like, you know, he recruits Warren White's men and stuff, but it's not like a big deal. It's not like a big final battle, so to say. But that was originally what I intended when I was writing this scene into the story, and I kind of wrapped it up a little differently later on. Then this scene here with Deathstroke invading Arkham Asylum, you know, I wanted to have a longer sequence with him just like butchering like a bunch of people, and blood and lipstick and stuff, and just at that time, not to say that I wasn't capable of it, I just didn't do it. Oh yeah, and then also you see here he has two eyes in comparison to when I Sharpied the eye patch. Like, I was going to Sharpie one of his eyes out, but this figure, I didn't want to ruin the figure and Sharpie one of his eyes out. Plus I realized I messed up, that his right eye on the orange side, I was like, oh shoot, like, yeah, I don't want to Sharpie that one out. So like I thought the continuity was as well, so that's why I just didn't do that. Maybe he was faking the eye patch. But yeah, so Joker, you know, I felt like I really needed to bring Joker back, of course. Like, he's one of Batman's biggest enemies. And that was kind of the whole focus of, like, if I couldn't have a bunch of villains like the Knightfall comic, at least the Joker. I would make that Bane's idea. Sort of like in, not the Widening Gyre, I think it was called Batman Cacophony with Onomatopoeia. he uses Joker as bait to flush out Batman, and so I kind of went along with that. I was like, yeah, so Bane's just kind of using Joker to draw Batman out, and kind of like, yeah, which is a little reminiscent of the actual Knightfall storyline, and it's actually Joker here who's releasing people. I didn't want to like use Riddler and do like a bunch of stuff there. I felt like there was going to be already so much with the story, but I did want to have a callback with his appearance there, and then also Victor Zsasz. The problem is a lot of the villains that I introduced in my series, I killed most of them off, so it's not like I could have brought them back even if I wanted to. Okay, so this part where they're playing cards, this is supposed to be a subtle callback to episode 1 of Gotham After Midnight, whenever the goons were playing cards. Whenever like one of them throws a little tantrum because they lost, I wanted to have like a small homage to that. So not that anybody would have noticed, but and then this scene where Bane's watching with the binoculars, this was a moment also that I pulled from the Knightfall comics. Whenever he says, whenever he recognizes Batman without the mask, he's like, no, it's not Bruce Wayne, it's Batman. I really like that, and I wanted to bring that over into the story. And you know, like I always said in my previous commentaries, Bruce Wayne, I never really had Bruce use that persona of his, so I felt like it was a little overdue. And not that he actually really does anything here to do with his company and stuff, but I was like, all right, let me actually show that he has a little influence and a little bit of an appearance in the public eye. And also bring Damian to that, because I do want Damian to inherit everything and kind of take over Bruce's place. And maybe, I don't know, you know what, I it's no big deal. It's not, I'll let you know, like, what I was thinking is that Damian would create maybe Batman Incorporated a little down the line. I thought that might be kind of cool. And then this scene here with this is supposed to be the Royal Flush Gang, which I gave them new looks because it's the Joker, and I always imagined the Royal Flush Gang would work for the Joker for some reason, so that's why I implemented this here. But it's also just this scene to show Joker's chaotic aura. This was a little bit of a flex on my part, or not really a flex. Not to say that I wrote Joker spectacularly well, but I just wanted to see, I wanted to test my writing, I guess, and just see like if I could write an entire scene with Joker's character and not mess it up in any way. See if I could get it right. But it was also as a way for to wear Batman down. And because like if he was just gonna fight Joker, like I was like, yeah, he wouldn't be too tired from that. That's just a regular night for him. So I wanted him to fight Deathstroke and a few others to make him actually get tired. And it was also a good not plot device, but to further move the story along. Only Deathstroke would know where Joker was. Like, how else would Batman find Joker? Okay, so whenever Bane shows up here to take down Tim, this was reminiscent of the Knightfall comic. Whenever Tim, I think it was Tim, I don't think it was Dick. Yeah, I think it was Tim chases after Bane, and the two of them fought in the sewers with Killer Croc, which, if I had introduced Killer Croc in my series, I would have loved to do all that, but I never did. That it wouldn't have made any sense. But I wanted to bring over that Tim versus Bane moment, and though it's not an on-screen fight, because I wanted to fake out everybody to make you think that Tim died, because I just killed so many people off. Like, I did consider killing Tim, I really did, because I just, you know, that's just how I am, I guess. But then I realized, like, I've killed off so many people, and Tim hasn't had enough screen time that I just felt like, nah, I should keep him around. So I decided to make it a fake out. And then bringing Dick back, like, I felt like, I gotta bring Nightwing back. Like, come on, this is the finale. And Jason and Dick have always had a great dynamic that I was like, okay, I definitely want to make it Jason who's the one to reach out to Dick. Because last we saw him, he was in Bloodhaven, and though I always had plans for Nightwing to reappear, like a Nightwing series or nothing, none of that stuff ever came out for you to know what was going on with Nightwing. So it was tough for me figuring out where Nightwing would be at this point in time. Would he still be operating as Nightwing in Bloodhaven? Would he have quit and just be a cop? Like, I figured best of both worlds is just to make it so Dick's trying to get by as just a cop, but whenever that's not enough, he becomes Nightwing. And this could be part of his story here, is Jason roping him back in, and Bruce no longer being Batman. It's like, well, somebody has to step up and be a hero. And that's kind of what pushes him back into wearing the suit and helps him complete his full cycle of, not that he becomes Nightwing. I mean, he becomes Nightwing again for the film, but by the end becoming Batman. And it's not really about the mask or the identity for Dick, but rather putting on that costume and doing more, if that makes sense. So then Tobias Whale, which I also had this Whitehead. This could have worked for Warren White, but I wanted to bring in a lot of crime bosses because that's something that was really strong and present in Gotham After Midnight, and I kind of dropped that in Laughter After Midnight. So I was like, all right, let me bring back what made the first season so lovable by everybody, and kind of put that here. You know, let's not neglect that. So I really wanted to further emphasize on the crime aspect. And it also felt like the right thing to do with Victor Zsasz' character, because when he was introduced, it was more like the Gotham show where he just kind of worked for the crime bosses. He wasn't just this guy that went and cut people up like he basically does in the comics. And while that's fine and dandy, like, you can have an anarchist kind of character like that, I was like, nah, it doesn't make any sense why he would just go ahead and start massacring people like that after he gets let loose. So I was like, all right, let me just make it so he tries to join up with Tobias Whale. So then Damian finds Bird, and this is also a moment that happens with Tim, is he confronts Bird, and I wanted to bring that over, but with Damian instead, because I still needed to handle Bane's crew, his friends and his teammates and stuff. So I was like, okay, I had to figure out in this scene, do I want them to succeed in capturing Damian, and then Bruce is in a predicament with Tim and Damian, or do I want to have them get defeated here? And the script was already like 30 or 40 pages long at that point, that I was like, I could continue pulling it along, and I wanted to, but I just felt like it would have been at my limit. So I was like, okay, I'm going to have them get defeated. And instead, it would push Bane's character forward, because it's not like Bane really didn't have anything when he was born. You know, he didn't have his father, he lost his mother and stuff. And so losing the friends and the people that kind of low-key raised him, I was like, okay, that'll give him a little taste of understanding Batman and pushing him forward and wanting to take down Batman. Because this was what it was all about, is Bane trying to understand Batman and find himself in a sense. And the whole talking over the radio thing, like, this is something I'd done before, I think. No, wait, this isn't something I had done before. See, this is what I was talking about with Joker. Whenever I introduced Joker, I wanted the two of them to speak with each other, but not really have a confrontation. Because, like, if they were in person, they would just, they would just brawl it out. They would just punch each other. But I was like, okay, but if he's, like, talking to him over a phone or something, then it's kind of like, not a fist fight, but a battle of philosophy. And that's what this is mostly focusing on, what this film focuses on. So it's a little bit reminiscent of Daredevil Season 1, whenever Wilson Fisk and Matt Murdock, whenever they speak over the radio. Which is something that also Mario had done with Peter and Norman. It's a good story element. It's a good... trying to think of the right wording, but it's a good usage, a good way to do that. So this is what I'm talking about with the flashbacks and spreading them out. Like, it was tough, like, because like I said, I had written this script before these flashback scenes. So really, these flashback scenes, I was just having to try to find the right places to put them. So it was tough finding the right spots, but I feel like this was the right place for figuring out why Bane wanted to go to Gotham, why he wanted to bring down Batman is in this scene here, whenever he learns about a city and kings, and all he had never ever known was Santa Prisca and the Warden, and it's like, oh, the king is the Warden, he's the one who's in charge, and then whenever he learns of a city, a greater world, a bigger place than just one building in the prison, it's like, hey, I want that kind of thing. It's a little more complex than that, but like, just briefly glossing over it. And then he learns, like, Batman is the supposed quote-unquote king and ruler of Gotham. He's like, okay, I'm gonna take out Batman. There we go. And then, so the thing is, so Bane and Batman talking here, a lot of it is my own dialogue that I wrote, but also a lot of it is also stuff taken from the comics. Because whenever Bane and Batman are having their final confrontation in Knightfall, there's a lot of panels, and a lot of speech bubbles and a lot of thought bubbles, and it's all really great stuff that I wanted to use, but to transfer over something that's readable over into a visual format, like it's hard to keep up audio with visual, especially whenever it's fighting. So it kind of had to be transferred over into dialogue, and I couldn't handle all that in just the walkie-talkie scene because I didn't want to prolong it. I felt like the tension would be better if they were in person here, and it led up to the climax. So yeah, Bane grabs Reaper's blade from the Batman series. It's just a small thing. Like, if you noticed it, you noticed it. Which somebody did comment that, like, oh, was that Reaper's blade from the Batman series? I was like, oh shoot, you actually recognize that. I didn't think anybody would realize. But since I'm doing a commentary, thought I would point out that I did that purposely. And then this scene here, yeah, I was supposed to green screen this, but I didn't realize until after, like, Robin's his hands and his mask were green, and yeah, that made some complication for the green screening. So I was like, well, shoot, guess it's just gonna remain a green screen. Yeah, no, I see. The thing is, I wanted a moment where all the Robins, even if Jason and Nightwing, they never really were Robin in my series, I wanted, like, all of them to team up. Like, we never got to see everybody together at, like, a moment like that. I just thought that'd make for a great moment. So I was like, okay, let me make this a side mission, and it also pulls them all away from the Batcave, so Batman and Bane can have their one-on-one. So I felt like it worked a lot better. It kind of worked in terms of how the story would pan out and the explanation as to why. And then this fight scene, like, you'll notice the set's better, the lighting's better, just everything's a lot better, and that's because I didn't animate this part of the Batcave fight. This was animated by my good friend, the Brick Ranger. I actually had sent him my Bane and Batman figures, and I was like, dude, I need you to do this fight scene for me, because he's always been great at fight scenes, and like I have always said, I'm not very good at fight scenes. I don't know why, I just can't really do them. And I wanted this fight scene to be the best it could be. I wanted it to be long. I wanted it to be worth it. And I just felt like I couldn't deliver. And if I couldn't deliver, then I was willing to turn to somebody else. So yeah, so Austin, a big props to him for helping me out with this fight scene, because it came out sick. Okay, so yeah, then the decision to make it so Batman doesn't get his back broken, I was really worried that people would get mad at me and not like that. But luckily, nobody really, there wasn't any backlash, I don't think. So I'm glad how that turned out. But yeah, that was a decision I really pondered on it for a long time, because I was originally going to have Batman get his back broken, because if he quits anyways, then, like, what does it matter whether he's paralyzed or not, right? But then we would have the problem of Bane still out there. And also, it was a little predictable. Like, I discussed this with my friend Mario. He may as well be my manager. And he was saying, like, no, like, surprise everybody. I feel like it would be a good, like, shocking, epic moment. And, it also made sense when I thought about it, story-wise. I was like, okay, this is Batman on his last legs, and I'm not going to make him go out with a loss, right? and it would be stupid for him to go out like this and then have a return, a triumphant return, and then like once he has his return, he's still Batman, and then it's just back to square one, you know. So this would be a proper conclusion in terms of he still gets to have his triumphant moment, but it took everything out of him, and I feel like that's what kind of played into it. And then bringing Alfred back, that was also something else. Like, everybody had always asked like if Alfred was ever going to come back, and I was like, you know what, you're right, I kind of do need to bring him back, because I had always considered bringing him back. I just didn't know how I would do that, and I was like, all right, let me like just bring him back in for Knightfall. I guess I figured what I would do is Bruce's injuries would be so severe that Alfred gets called back, like instead of him going to a hospital. And I was going to originally make it so his back was broken, and so that's why Alfred would come back. But just, you know, I was like, whatever, he still gets beat up anyways, right? It was really about bringing everybody together. If Bane had nobody, then Batman would need somebody, right? Because he always had people, but he would lose them constantly along the way. And so now he has all these people. He has Alfred back. He has Damian, Tim, Dick, who else? Jason. So he has all these people, right? And so I was like, that was kind of the whole point. To make Bane and Batman polar opposites of each other. Batman could have been Bane, and Bane could have been Batman under different circumstances. I feel like that's a dynamic that's done over and over again, but it's such a powerful one, and if done properly and executed right, can be a great story. And I don't know, not saying I did a spectacular job, but I think I did a decent job at that. I just remember, like, this is like a 10-minute scene, so doing the mouth animation for a 10-minute scene, doing a mouth animation for like the whole hour, but like splitting it up into scenes that are like a minute or 2 minutes, it wasn't too bad. But for this whole 10-minute scene, I did it in like 2 days of the mouth animation, and I felt like a god. I was like bragging about it. If there was one thing I knew going into this, it was that I wanted to end it on an epic montage with the Code Geass song, Matter Sky. Just an epic, triumphant song. And yeah, so that's why I kind of ended on a little montage there. I wanted to show, but it was also a way of making the speech translate over into each person to show the takeaway and the meaningfulness of what had happened. See, thing is, I considered having an after credits scene, but I knew if I did something like that, then people would expect more. And I'm not, like, while Batman and others may appear in other media that's connected to my DC universe, I'm not going to make another Batman film or series based on this Batman and stuff. So I didn't want to make any promises that weren't going to be kept. Otherwise, I would have probably had something to do with, I considered maybe something to do with Jeremiah Arkham talking to Bane, or Hugo Strange, or some sort of scene like that. Oddly enough, like, wow, like, even though this was fairly recent of a project, I feel like I had a lot less to say for it than I usually do for my older stuff. Just basic things like the animation and stuff. I feel like the animation took about a solid year overall, everything. So that's why, like, some animation is smoother in some scenes, and other scenes it's not choppy, but, you know, a little worse for wear. Some sets and lighting, like, you could tell the difference between scenes. It's just so weird because I had put off making this film for a while because, like, it was so long. So I was like, oh god, whenever I start filming this, like, I was worried I was never going to make it. I remember when I started, I had just done like a shot at a time. Like, I did like one shot a day, and then I started to work up to like a page per day, and then that became more manageable. You know, the whole thing was such a treacherous process, which I guess for like such a long project, like, is understandable. But even the voice actors, like a big thing everybody asked was Matt Howell, who had voiced Batman throughout the series, like what happened to him. And it was just, I'd given him the script like when I first wrote it, and then I'd asked him frequently about the lines and stuff, and just so much time that had passed that I felt like editing without his lines and stuff. I was like, oh crud, I'm not gonna get this out by the Christmas deadline that I was aiming for. And yeah, that was kind of like what led to the recast. So just a lot of stuff that happened that kind of wish went a little differently, but nevertheless, you know, I think this was one of my better projects. Anyways, I hope that you enjoy this journey, and if so, then you might want to take a look at my Flash commentaries, and, you know, just my Brick films in general. Okay, thanks for watching. If you're a new subscriber or viewer, welcome to the Grosser Group.